bringing to you the stories that have never been told, the news that has yet to unfold, and the voices you have not heard. This is the Caribbean Cannabis Channel, where we meditate and educate on all things ganja within the Caribbean region, with your host, Prophet Natty.
Yo, peace and love, my Caribbean cannabis community and my global community. Now, I know it has been a minute, and I'm not going to jump straight into it. And even though it's been not a minute, actually months, today we're going to get real about where has Natty been. And it hasn't been all for nothing. I had a lot of time to do a lot of introspection, a lot of learning, reading, and I can now say for certain that you're in for a journey ahead. I must say thank you really and truly to those who have reached out via Instagram, who would have messaged me personally through email or just in conversation in person, asking what has been happening with the podcast, showing interest into the proceedings of the podcast and the community that we have created and formed over the last few years, and even sharing the podcast and the content of my social media to your friends and your family who are still kind of curious, who still looking for a point of reference of reliable and accurate information, which I try my best to provide to you. And the past few months has been a whirlwind of personal growth and industry exploration, and some serious soul searching, as I said. So today, I'm taking the opportunity to pull back the curtain and to share everything that has happened. But before we dive in, that's a disclaimer. This podcast is simply for educational purposes. Always consume responsibly. Know your local laws and prioritize your health and your safety. Okay. Now, before we jump into the meat of the matter, it's time for You May Have Missed This. And in today's episode of You May Have Missed This, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the groundbreaking CannaBliss Festival took place in November 1st to the 3rd. It was the first of its kind event at St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which brought together industry leaders, medical professionals, and cannabis enthusiasts from around the region and the world. Now, it showcased the region's commitment to cannabis education and responsible innovation. Next up on You May Have Missed It, the Bahamas made a major move with Prime Minister Philip Davis's landmark cannabis reform legislation. Now, the new package legalized medical and religious cannabis use and decriminalized it in small possessions. And it even included expungement of minor cannabis-related records. Now, this could be a serious game changer for the Bahamian economy and for the Caribbean, because as one wins, we all win. In Trinidad and Tobago, the cannabis community is still buzzing about their recent mini expo and conference that they had on November 30th. Now, they do have an upcoming full conference in April 2025, despite being one of the few Caribbean nations with decriminalization, but without a full legal trade. Now, Trinidad, why is that? Now, even though the president did commit to the bill in 2022, it has yet to be assented. So we want to pay close attention to what Trinidad and Tobago does in 2025. As we do know, it's an election year, and in an election year, many things do change. Also, Barbados, let's not forget them. They did have their first Cannabis Expo and Conference in October, where they brought together different industry leaders within the Caribbean as well as the medical and medicinal cannabis authorities. Now, what you would see with many of these conferences and expos around the Caribbean is that it focuses heavily on education and bringing everyone up to speed as to what is happening in their own countries and seeing what they can use and learn from and bring it back home. The DEA is considering rescheduling marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Now, this could dramatically improve business taxes and research opportunities, as well as the banking sector. Cannabis tourism in the Caribbean is projected to grow to 25% this year, so we want to see how that is correlated, and the global medical cannabis market is expected to reach a staggering 55 billion USD by 2025. Now, that's all for you may have missed this. Stay informed, stay curious, and stay committed. Now, as I mentioned in the intro to the podcast, I want to be completely transparent with you about the journey and the past few months that has happened. And many deep reflection and times of learning took place. Now, what happened with me is that there were shifts in my living situation, in my job situation, which had me take a step back and prioritize how I'm going to move forward. Many of you may know that I am from Trinidad and Tobago, whereas many of you do not know that and assume that I am Jamaican because I'm often in Jamaica, and that was because of work or because we all think that Jamaica somehow makes up the entire Caribbean. Again, no hate to my Jamaicans. I love you all dearly. I mean, I live here, but y'all are not the Caribbean. And I need everyone to stop thinking that Jamaica is the only Caribbean territory. No, I just needed to get it off my chest and be playful with you all. As I said, because I job was no longer became redundant, as well as me deciding to live and stay in Jamaica, I had to factor in how I'm going to actually live, where I'm living, how I'm going to make money, and these different things. And the podcast just wasn't the main priority at the time. So I did need to take a step back and get my house in order, literally, before I can move forward. And even though today I'm in a better place, still not where I want or need to be, but I'm in a better place. I just saw the need to actually address this matter before I can even get back into podcasting. But I'm grateful for the time away because it allowed me to step back and realize what I actually want for the podcast and what I want for our community, not just in the Caribbean but around the world. There are some changes coming to the podcast very, very soon, and I want you all to stay tuned for that. I did have a lot of thoughts about just deactivating the whole page, deleting the content and so forth, but many of you have reached out to me throughout the time to remind me that again it's a source of education, it's a source of inspiration, source of knowledge for you and your peers. So I do appreciate you pouring into me as I've poured out to you. Yeah, that has been what has been happening with Natty. And again, I can't go into full detail of everything because we are here for cannabis and learning about it. But we are a community, and one of the things that I love about the cannabis community is that so many different things bring us together, and we use cannabis as a tool to communicate, to learn about each other, and to merge our lives. I'm just taking that opportunity to be a bit vulnerable with you, something that I'm not the best at. Yeah, that has been what has been happening, and stay tuned for what is coming up with this channel. I don't want to say anything too much to give away, but we have some things coming up that will shift how we are continuously improving and how we are supporting you, the cannabis community, first and foremost here in the Caribbean region and beyond. Now we want to take a quick commercial break to hear from our sponsors. Interested in becoming a podcast sponsor? We love to explore how we can create a mutually beneficial collaboration. Email us at caribbeancannabis.channel@gmail.com to explore how your brand can shine through our platform. That is caribbeancannabis.channel@gmail.com. Let's cultivate a great partnership and keep this podcast thriving. We're back again with the Caribbean Cannabis channel, and I'm sharing some things that I have noticed and learned from my time away. The cannabis industry in the Caribbean is really at a crucial turning point at this time. We are no longer just talking about legalization, but we have to shift the focus into innovation, economic opportunity, and integration into our societies beyond the simple method of consumption that we have known it to be. Over this period of the last 10 years since we began decriminalizing and legalizing in this region, the industry has grown tremendously. So many things have shifted, from laws technology, business, branding, and marketing that we have to play a serious catch-up game here in the Caribbean. And it saddens me that looking at some of the territories that has been in the game for so many years, there's not much growth. And you can look at the different articles and the stories from those in the industry, the cultivars, the businesses, just they hear the stories that are happening, and that not much growth from a legal perspective is happening, which still puts persons in a operating within a gray area, and no one wants to operate within a gray area. So these are some of the key insights that I have gathered. The importance of the community is in cannabis entrepreneurship. We need to take a step into entrepreneurship and begin to innovate and create further from what we do know. And we need to do it from a local and a regional context. One of the things I've noticed is that we are importing a lot of different products to support our region when we don't have to. That's the thing. There's so many knowledgeable experts, breeders and growers and cultivators in our industry, and even business persons, that we should be able to do it on our own. Yes, of course, with support from the outside community, but we need to tap into our own entrepreneurship and our version of that, so that we can create our own products and have a unique selling proposition. We had a unique selling proposition, but I'm seeing that we are, like with other industries, we are consuming so many foreign products that it depletes or water down our own quality. There's a critical need for education and destigmatization still. Now, I would have made mention of the several conferences that would have happened throughout the year, and a big part of it still had to do with education at the basic level of understanding what cannabis can really do for us. And I mean, education is never wrong, and awareness is always key. But in 2024 going into 2025, we are still having elementary discussions about cannabis. That should not be. The amount of research and the education that has gone into it and the advancement, we should be at a stage now where we are not simply educating persons about the benefits of cannabis, because the benefits are there. We need to be showing how the benefits are now practically applied into everyday life and transforming into innovative ideas and transforming our economy to diversify from what we have known. Cannabis tourism is something that we boast about and speak on here in the Caribbean, but I would have had the opportunity to visit one of the prime cannabis tourist locations in the region, namely Negril, recently. And to be honest with you, I was a bit disappointed to what I saw at some of the places that are actually promoted as hotspots to visit. And if I left my country to come to Jamaica to see what I saw, I'm not too sure I would be pleased. So we really need to take a look at it from a different perspective. Not lean on the government support, but again, partner within the private sector, partner with our regional brothers and sisters to take what we can do and make it an actual worthwhile product that we own and not something that others in outside territories own. And then we also need to begin to highlight the local entrepreneurs, because they have been the true heroes carrying the industry for several years. Even though most of them remain within a black market side of things, illicit trading, they have still been carrying the weight of the cannabis industry. And the illicit market, or whatever you want to call it, has been the main pillar for the cannabis industry over the last couple of years. These are some of the things that I have noticed, and we're going to look deeper into it as we continue along with the podcast. And we're going to shift from simply a consumer perspective, but we're going to look at how consumers as well as the retailers can now position themselves to become an innovative as well as a leading force within the cannabis industry. Now continue to stay tuned for the future vision as well as a teaser for what we have coming up next. We'll take a quick commercial break to hear from our sponsor. Interested in becoming a podcast sponsor? We love to explore how we can create a mutually beneficial collaboration. Email us at CaribbeanCannabisChannel@gmail.com to explore how your brand can shine through our platform. That is CaribbeanCannabisChannel@gmail.com. Let's cultivate a great partnership and keep this podcast thriving. Alright, so welcome back to the Caribbean Cannabis Channel. Now, you've been hearing some of the things that we have learned, what I've been up to and what I've seen. I just want to share with you what we are actually going to change now, because the podcast is evolving. We're not only talking about cannabis now, but we're talking about creating a roadmap for responsible and innovative cannabis engagement in the Caribbean. Some of the things we're going to be focusing on that you can look forward to is the customer experience in the cannabis industry and how we can improve bettering our customers' experience as they purchase our products and interact with us at a business level and vice versa. We're then going to take some deep dives into the Caribbean cannabis markets and dissect them to see what is actually working, what is not working, and seeing how we can fix it by implementing different strategies, marketing tools to increase our potential, our visibility, and the quality of the products and the experiences that we are sharing with others. We're still going to be promoting responsible consumption because that is very important. Edibles to steaming and everything in between as to how we can responsibly and safely use cannabis. And of course, we're going to be highlighting some business innovations. Now, the things that we're going to touch on, again, I don't want to give you all too much, but we are focusing highly on the customer. Because from my experience, both professionally as well as dealing with cannabis businesses and their consumers, the customers are the backbone or the drivers of the industry. We grow cannabis for someone to consume. We create a dispensary for customers to come and consume. We breed new strains of cannabis every month because our consumers' tastes and their palates are shifting. So we're going to be focusing highly on how we can craft an experience around the consumer. Because once we put the consumer back into the driver's seat, then I believe that the cannabis industry can take off. To all my loyal listeners, again, I thank you for your continued support. This journey is more than just a podcast. It's about building an informed and responsible, empowered community in the Caribbean. Next week, I'm going to officially launch some news, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Continue to stay connected with the Caribbean Cannabis Channel and follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast, join our community, share the stories and the insights, and participate in what we do have coming along. My name is Prophet Natty, and this is the Caribbean Cannabis Channel, your guide through the green landscape.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Caribbean Cannabis Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook so you don't miss out on any of the exciting news happening across the region. Until next time, remember to meditate and educate.